Right now, lawmakers are preparing for the historic impeachment vote against President Trump today. We'll have the latest from Washington.
And we'll tell you when state employees will find out if they will be getting a raise.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday, December 18th. I'm Josh Sprider.
And I'm Leah Lynchide. We start with the top story of the day as we are just hours from the vote on the impeachment of President Trump.
Coming up today, the House of Representatives will begin a day-long debate on the 2 articles of impeachment. It's happening later this morning, and Deborah Alfarone has the latest from Capitol Hill.
Today, the House of Representatives is expected to impeach the President of the United States for just the 3rd time in the nation's history.
The president is completely unrepentant and defiantly declares his behavior here perfect.
Yesterday, the House Rules Committee laid the ground rules for today's vote.
It's 6 hours of debate,
which comes almost 21 years to the day that the House voted to impeach President Clinton.
Article 1 is adopted.
President Trump called the 2019 effort a partisan attempted coup in a 6-page letter to Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Other presidents are going to have to live with this.
The president wrote Democrats are on a vicious crusade and accused them of the 2 charges he's facing: abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. In a letter to her Democratic colleagues, Pelosi wrote, "If we do not act, we will be derelict in our duty."
To impeach the President of the United States for that is a disgrace.
The next step will be a trial in the Senate. Republican leaders are trying to shut down the Democrats' request to have new witnesses testify.
I'm not an impartial juror. This is a political process.
Senator McConnell wants to use the Senate to help participate in a cover-up.
Hundreds of pro-impeachment rallies were held around the country yesterday.
He's got to go, he's got to go.
It's unclear if they'll sway any GOP lawmakers.
Have you not witnessed us united?
A small number of Democrats say they'll vote against impeachment. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The most recent Marquette Law School poll shows people in Wisconsin oppose the impeachment. According to that poll, about 40% of people in Wisconsin support impeachment and removal, while 52% are against it. That has stayed pretty steady over the past few months.
We will, of course, have full coverage of today's House vote right here after News 3 Now this morning. The House is expected to start its debate at 8 a.m. It could last up to 6 hours.
The House of Representatives is also working on a $1.4 trillion spending package to avoid a government shutdown. The House has approved the package that would fund the government through the fiscal year 2020. It now needs to be passed in the Senate and signed by President Trump by Friday to avoid the shutdown. The legislation includes funding for election security, gun research, and raises the federal tobacco purchasing age to 21 and a military pay raise.
Thousands of state employees are also looking for a raise this morning. They'll find out whether a 2% raise will be coming their way at a meeting later today. The proposal passed the legislature's Finance Committee in May, but the Joint Committee on Employment Relations still has to approve it. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos and Senate President Roger Roth will both be at that meeting.
Meanwhile, a pay raise for our Wisconsin state troopers could be in danger. The troopers' deal would raise starting salaries from $44,000 a year to $54,000, an increase of about 23%. That deal isn't listed on the agenda for today's meeting in the state Senate. Republican senators were concerned about how big the increase is and wanted more time to review it. The GOP also plans to reject Governor Evers' call to raise the minimum state salary to $15 an hour.
All right, a very cold start to this Wednesday morning. Hattie's here now with an update on weather and traffic. Hi, Hattie.
Good morning, Lee and Josh. Yeah, the big weather story is the cold this morning. Here's a look at current wind chills. We've dropped in Madison now to 13 below. That's what it feels like. 14 below in the Dells. Feels like 4 below in Janesville and 5 below in Platteville. The only places without a huge wind chill this morning are right in the Wisconsin River Valley, where the wind isn't much of a factor. Here's a look at your wind chill forecast today. Add some extra layers. It is certainly going to be a cold day today, the coldest day of the week. Temperatures will only be in the teens this afternoon, again with wind chills in the low to mid-teens later on today. Let's take a look at your traffic report this morning. We'll see what's happening on area roads. Pretty quiet right now, just a stalled vehicle on the northbound side of I-39. This is near Highway 19 north of Madison. Otherwise, here in the capital city, no major delays to report at this time. Coming up in about 5 minutes, we'll talk about that extended forecast. If you're not a fan of the cold weather today, you don't have to wait very long. Our warm-up starts tomorrow. We have a lot of sun in the forecast and very dry conditions right through the holidays.
All right. Thank you very much, Hattie. 6:05 now. The state of Wisconsin is appealing a judge's order to immediately deactivate the voter registrations of more than 200,000 people. The judge has entered an order that the Elections Commission needs to get rid of voters who didn't respond to a mailing indicating that they've moved. The Department of Justice immediately appealed. A lot of eyes are on this case since the majority of effective voters are areas of the state with more Democratic voters.
An Adams County Board Supervisor is asking to schedule a special session to review the Department of Criminal Investigation's report against its former clerk and IT director. Cindy Filippi and Don McGee were accused of exposing more than 250,000 people's personal information in a county data breach. According to the DCI's 225-page report, however, investigators did not find evidence that would support criminal charges.
Legislation that would make a timeline and a process for testing sexual assault kits is waiting for the Wisconsin State Assembly to take action, and an area police department is offering its perspective. Wausau police say that would help keep the victim, prosecutor, and any officers handling the case involved as it goes through the legal system. The department is also in favor of funding for an electronic tracking system for those kits. They say it would bring consistency around the state for how the kits are addressed. The legislation was passed by the state Senate back in October.
Local law enforcement around the state could be forced to enforce federal immigration laws under a new bill at the state capitol. The controversial bill to ban sanctuary cities targets policies in Madison and Milwaukee that limit the amount of immigration enforcement that local police officers do. You may remember when ICE had a 4-day operation here last year when police didn't assist them with the arrests and ICE didn't tell city officials they were coming. This bill would require local law enforcement to cooperate and enforce federal laws.
When aliens walk out the front of the jail that could have been handed over to Immigration and Customs Enforcement for removal proceedings, they have the opportunity to commit additional crimes.
An individual with prominent Hispanic features had acid thrown in his face and was accused of being an illegal, right? These are the types of measures that support that kind of thinking.
Dane County Sheriff Dave Mahoney tells us he's against the bill, saying it would put more responsibilities on already overstressed municipalities and would eliminate trust. In the end, activists believe if it gets to Governor Evers' desk, he won't sign it. 6:07 right now. The man accused in a deadly shooting in Madison is being held on $1 million bond this morning. Coming up, we'll tell you what police say led to that shooting that left an 18-year-old from Dodgeville dead.
And Hattie's tracking a warm-up on the way for the weekend. We are going to need it after wind chills below zero this morning. You heard her -13 in Madison right now. Whew. Your first alert extended forecast is next.
This
Good morning from the Hattie-O patio. All bundled up this morning. It is a cold start to the day. Wind chills are below zero in most locations. Temperatures aren't much warmer than that. Take a look at our upper air weather pattern. We use the jet stream and the upper air patterns to really see what's going to happen with our weather going forward. The jet stream is the boundary between the real cold polar air and the milder air to the south, and you can see that it is dipping right across the Great Lakes region. So that is allowing some of that Arctic air to move in this morning. But as we put the map into motion, that upper air weather pattern shifts to the east. So the cold air goes into New England, and we start to warm things up here heading toward the upcoming weekend. In fact, take a look at Saturday and Sunday with those green and yellow shaded colors indicating warmer temperatures moving all the way into the northern plains and here in the Great Lakes region. So a nice warm up is in our forecast, and it looks like those mild temperatures will continue right through the holidays. That polar air locked up to the north. So our 8 to 14 day temperature outlook really reinforcing that thinking, showing you that temperatures are expected to be well above normal as we go even through Christmas and towards the end of the month, closing out 2019 on a rather mild note this year. Take a look at Weather Track this morning. We're not talking mild temperatures today, though. Certainly, it's the coldest day of the week. Skies are clear this morning. I am keeping my eye on those clouds working their way across Minnesota. They're likely going to hold together, so some more clouds expected in our area for later on this afternoon. But enjoy that sunshine early. It's certainly cold outside. The temperature is 3 degrees. When you factor in a north-northwest wind at 12, it feels like 13 below here in Madison. Here's a look at the actual air temperatures. It has now dropped below zero in the Dells as well as Watoma. Wind chills are even colder. That northwest wind is a factor this morning. And here's what it feels like. As you step out the door, it's going to feel like 14 below in the Dells, 5 below in Platteville, and 4 below in Janesville. So add the extra layers this morning. Wind chills will improve some, but not a lot. We're looking at wind chills only in the single digits and lower teens as we head through the afternoon. Here's a look at your future track forecast model. Again, clear skies this morning, but by the lunch hour, look for a few more clouds across southern Wisconsin. High temperatures today will be in the upper teens, close to 20 in some spots. Temperatures aren't expected to drop back that much overnight. South winds kick in and our warm-up begins. Overnight lows tonight, 15 degrees. And then for tomorrow, we're headed to highs in the mid-30s. And then it's 40s in the forecast right through the Christmas holiday. The weather forecast also looks quiet with no major storm systems moving in this direction. Now it's time to get a look at our first alert traffic. We have a new team member in the driver's seat this morning. We'll send a warm welcome to Stacy Kay. Good morning, Stacy.
Good morning, and thanks. No problems yet on the Beltline. Nothing to slow you down in either direction so far. Other roads here in Dane County moving along well. Just some of the usual brake lights starting up on Stoughton as you approach the Beltline. No delays downtown around campus as volume is not an issue yet. And other main roads heading into Madison moving along with no crashes or delays. With your first alert traffic, I'm Stacy Kay.
Stacy Kay and Hattie, thank you both very much and welcome to the team. The man accused of shooting and killing an 18-year-old over the weekend is being held on a $1 million bond this morning. 20-year-old Marcus Hamilton is accused in the shooting death of Gunnar Holm of Dodgeville. It happened on Madison's east side on Spruce Street. The State Journal reports the shooting started as a drug deal that became violent. Hamilton was in court yesterday and is due back on Monday for initial appearance proceedings.
The student accused of bringing 2 pellet guns to Waukesha South High School is out on bond this morning. 18-year-old Tyrone Smith is facing 5 charges, one of those a felony. Smith said in court yesterday he brought the pellet guns to school because kids were picking on him. Smith's attorney says the student has mental health issues. An 11-year veteran with the Waukesha Police Department shot him 3 times, once in the leg, twice in the arm, after officers say he ignored their commands. He's due back in court in February.
The family of an 18-year-old who was shot and killed by police in southeast Wisconsin is suing over his death, claiming wrongful death and excessive force. Tyrese West was shot by Mount Pleasant Police Sergeant Eric Giese in June after being stopped for not having a light on his bike while riding in the dark. The Racine County District Attorney announced in September that Giese was acting in self-defense and would not be charged. New this morning, police say report of a man with a gun on a UW system campus was actually a case of mistaken identity. The scene is now clear at UW Stevens Point at Marshfield, but this is what the campus looked like as police investigated the potential threat. Two students thought that they saw a man with a gun, but police say the man was actually lost and needed directions out of the building. He didn't have a gun, but did have gloves sticking out of his jacket. Officers say since there have been so many threats involving schools around the state recently, they take situations like this seriously.
I think that we would have responded accordingly regardless of those other events. We're going to take these seriously until we can determine that they're not. And our reaction would rather be one of overreacting than underreacting.
Marshfield police say they commend the students for reporting suspicious behavior and encourage everyone to report something that they think is unusual.
A new audit says Wisconsin's Economic Development Agency needs to make changes to ensure tax credits aren't awarded to Foxconn employees who don't work in the state. This is the second year the Legislative Audit Bureau has identified the problem. Governor Evers says Foxconn won't qualify for tax credits unless its contract is renegotiated.
Power Tools manufacturing company Milwaukee Tool will build a new campus that is expected to bring 870 new jobs to the state in the next 5 years. The new campus will be in Menominee Falls. It's a $100 million investment on top of the $7.5 million it's investing to expand its Imperial Blade subsidiary in Sun Prairie. The company is eligible for millions of dollars in tax credits if it follows through on jobs promises.
The Janesville Plan Commission is moving forward with a preliminary development plan for the former General Motors site. Our partners at the Janesville Gazette report the plan includes zoning for industrial, residential, and mixed uses, and those could change depending on bids to build at the site. It's meant to be used as a roadmap and marketing tool for the new Centennial Industrial Park.
6:17 right now and still ahead for us on a Wednesday morning. We're telling you why nearly 5,000 kids in Dane County will be without books soon.
And we will be in the teens while your kids wait at the bus stop today, but it's going to feel even colder than that. Hattie's forecast is next on News 3 Now this morning. It's the
6:21 on a Wednesday morning. Live look at the Hattie-O patio this morning. Very, very festive out there. 1 week away from Christmas.
We are, yeah.
You're looking pretty festive, Josh.
Look at this.
Can you even see through those?
I can actually. I'm a little impressed.
Fabulous.
Fabulous. These are our producer Ari's, and then I've got the tie-on from our producer Jake. So I'm dressed by our producers today.
Nice. Elton John calls. He wants his glasses back.
I'm just going to wear these the rest of the show. I wonder what the boss would think about that.
Oh, boy.
It's okay. The weather's pretty quiet today. You know, we don't have to worry about that.
He'll dress it up for us.
Yes, you will. You need all the layers. You got to keep the eyes warm today. Anything you can do. Take a look at our current wind chills. 13 degrees below zero is what it feels like in Madison. You may want to choose the ski mask rather than those sunglasses, Josh, just to stay warm outside. 4 below is the wind chill in Janesville, 5 below in Mineral Point, and 6 below in Platteville. So bundle the kids up as you head to the bus stop this morning. Our wind chills through the day are going to improve a little bit, but not much. It'll still feel like it's in the teens this afternoon. It's the coldest day of the week today. We do have sunshine, though, in the forecast. Mostly clear skies this morning, turning partly sunny this afternoon. Our high is just 18 degrees later on. Coming up, though, we'll talk about that weekend forecast, especially heading into the holidays. Looks like it is going to warm up. Your Saturday planner in the evening has temperatures still in the 30s.
Ooh, keep those sunglasses handy, Josh. Thank you, Hattie.
You're welcome.
6:22 your time now. Madison Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway is flipping the switch on the city's newest solar panel project. The panels on top of Metro Transit's bus garage roof are a 120 kilowatt system, and they're expected to offset 98 metric tons of carbon dioxide every year. It's Madison's most powerful solar project yet, and it'll help the city reach its 2030 goal of 100% renewable energy.
The owner of a grocery store on Janesville's east side says it'll only be open for a few more days. Mauer's Market on Milwaukee Street was only open for a year and a half before owner Jeff Mauer says money began to run out. Now city leaders in Janesville are concerned others will not have a place to buy groceries.
Well, you have a large food desert now between the entirety of the south side not having a full-line grocery, and now the far east side does not have a grocery available.
City of Janesville officials say they'll start looking for tenants to fill that space.
For about 5,000 kids in Dane County, they will no longer be getting books from Dolly Parton's reading program. The United Way of Dane County decided not to continue its partnership with the National Foundation. They said the cost to do so was too much on top of the other programs they run. While the national organization searches for a new local partner, United Way Dane County is pointing families toward other literacy organizations. One of them, Reach Out and Read Wisconsin, works with doctors to get parents more comfortable reading with their kids. The project manager says that's what's important.
There's now a whole body of evidence with baby brain research where we know how important it is to stimulate infants' brain development starting at birth, and reading is the easiest way for parents to do that with their children.
The Imagination Library would still very much like to serve these kids with free books. If you know of an organization that might be a good fit, or if you'd like more information on any of these other resources, you can find all of that over on channel3000.com.
Looking ahead, the Madison Public Library says the new Penny Library will be officially opening in March. The temporary library on Cottage Grove will close to the public on Sunday, February 16th. A little less than a month later, on March 12th, the new library on Cottage Grove Road will open with a ribbon-cutting ceremony. The new location is on the Royster Corners mixed-use development and features bigger meeting spaces, improved children and teen spaces, and a studio for hands-on projects.
All right, 6:25 on your Wednesday. There is still more news ahead for us on News 3 Now this morning.
We're continuing to keep you informed ahead of today's historical impeachment vote. Up next, we're breaking down the facts. Stay with us.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now This Morning.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for sticking with us on this Wednesday, December 18th.
We are just hours away from a vote on the impeachment of President Trump.
Coming up today, there will be up to 6 hours of debate before the House votes on each of the 2 articles of impeachment against the president. There are no amendments allowed to those articles. If the Democratic-controlled House votes in favor of impeachment, Trump will become the 3rd president in U.S. history to be impeached. His removal from office would require a 2/3 majority vote in the Republican-controlled Senate.
Ahead of the vote to impeach him, President Trump continues to insist on his innocence. In a 6-page letter to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the president accuses her of subverting American democracy, saying things like, quote, more due process was afforded to those accused in the Salem witch trials. The president's letter more broadly accuses Democrats of interfering in the upcoming election and obstructing justice, which, as you'll remember, are the charges also levied against him.
A coalition of liberal groups are making their voices heard ahead of the vote, with rallies held around the U.S., including a rainy Times Square in New York City and Midwest cities like Evanston, Illinois, and St. Paul, Minnesota. In Madison, hundreds got together at the state capitol. A tagline of these rallies is "Nobody is above the law, impeach and remove." Organizers say Trump has abused his power of office and are asking Congress to do just that.
As a citizen, I take my responsibility very seriously. I believe that we are the government. We're those people we put into power, and they speak for us. And so when they're no longer speaking for us, then it's time to make a change.
The most recent Marquette poll shows these protesters are actually in the minority. According to the poll, about 40% of people in Wisconsin support impeachment and removal, while 52% are against it. That stayed pretty steady over the past few months.
We will, of course, have full coverage of today's House vote right here after News 3 Now this morning. The House is expected to start its debate at 8 a.m., and it could last up to 6 hours.
The House of Representatives is also working on a $1.4 trillion spending package to avoid a government shutdown. The House has approved the package that would fund the government through the fiscal year 2020, and now needs to be passed in and by the Senate and signed by President Trump by Friday to avoid the shutdown. The legislation includes funding for election security, gun research, and it also raises the federal tobacco purchasing age to 21 and a military pay raise.
All right, over to Hattie now with our top local headline, and that is the cold, Hattie.
It certainly is. Temperatures are much colder this morning than they were this time yesterday. We're down in the single digits, some spots, though, below 0. 1 below in the Dells as well as Viroqua this morning. That's only part of the story. When you factor in the northwesterly wind, it feels like it's below 0 in most locations this morning. Madison, the Dells have some of the coldest wind chills right now at 13 degrees below 0. So bundle up as you head out the door. Those wind chills will be a factor through the day. High temperatures today will only reach 18 later on this afternoon. So the coldest day of the week. Here's a look at our traffic maps early this morning. Roads are clear. No major issues to report right now here in and around Madison. Looks like you're driving still at posted speeds as you head into the capital city. Coming up in about 10 minutes, we'll talk about that extended forecast that brings more sunshine and a warm up starting as early as tomorrow. The forecast looks like it's going to remain dry through Christmas Day.
All right, thank you very much, Hattie. For the first time in more than 2 decades, Congress is approving funding for gun violence research. $25 million will go toward the CDC and the National Institutes for Health. The funding comes as the country continues to grapple with the effects of frequent mass shootings. For more than 2 decades, the CDC has avoided gun research. This funding is part of the $1.4 trillion spending deal in the House.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is responding to claims that the church has more than $100 billion stashed away. The first presidency of the church says, quote, the claims being currently circulated are based on limited information, and the church's funds are, quote, methodically safeguarded. Accusations first came from a report filed to the IRS in November. A whistleblower who formerly worked in the church's investment division says the church was sitting on over $100 billion that has been earned over the past 20 years through investments. Now the brother of the whistleblower has posted a 7-minute-long video to YouTube to explain what these accusations mean.
Mormon Church has been stockpiling $1 to $2 billion of surplus tithing into a reserve of the reserves. The Mormon Church could tell every member in the world to completely stop paying tithing now and forever, and it could continue to fund every current program in full without drawing down on the reserves.
According to the Washington Post, since the church's investment division is registered as a supporting organization to the church, it operates as a nonprofit and receives the church's tax-exempt status.
6:33 now. Coming up in the morning sprint, we will tell you why local law enforcement may soon have to enforce immigration law.
And after the break, we're telling you how you can possibly save a little more on your taxes this year. Stay with us. You're watching News 3 Now this morning. It is 6:36, and we've been asking you to share your morning with us, and Kevin is bringing us another fantastic sunrise. Check this out.
This is a sunrise Friday morning in Argyle from Kevin, and it is stunning.
This is like, you've been like oohing and eyeing about this photo all morning.
I know, we laughed last hour. Josh, when he first showed me this picture, got a squeal out of me. I love it.
I love how he centered the sun like into the steering wheel like that too. Like, it actually looks like a cold photo. Like, you know, you can see when it's cold outside. It looks like that.
Frame it up and send it over, Charles.
Yeah.
Great gift for Christmas. Thanks for sending that in.
Leah wants that in her living room.
You better believe it.
Keep sending us your photos. You can do that over on our Facebook page. We're following new information this morning as researchers say caring for a grandchild can mean less loneliness and social isolation for seniors. Doctors in Germany find the activity helped expand social circles for seniors, but They warned the positive impact could wear off if grandparents are asked to babysit too frequently.
Experts say Americans are projected to spend up to $730 billion over the holiday season this year.
And if you're still deciding where you're going to spend Christmas, maybe this list will help you out. Wallet Hub is out with the best cities for Christmas celebrations, making the top 3 Atlanta, Orlando, and New York City. Chicago ranked 5th and Madison listed as 37th. Researchers looked at everything from Christmas events to average price per Christmas party to shopping centers and outlets.
And to help you save a buck or two before the end of the year, we have a friendly reminder about your taxes. There are a number of last-minute things you can do now to cut down on what you'll owe come April. First, check your withholding. You may be withholding too much, giving the government an interest-free loan. You can also boost retirement contributions. You can reduce your taxable income dollar for dollar by contributing as much as you can prior to December 31st. Local experts at Madison College suggest doubling up on some of those deductions.
Most people can't itemize, or if they can, they won't be able to do it every year. So you double up the deductions in 1 year, and then the next year you'll take the standard deduction, and therefore that'll minimize your taxes over the 2-year period.
Finally, give to charity if you're in the right situation. Although changes to the law have reduced incentives, you can still maximize savings.
It is the most wonderful time of year, especially when it comes to acts of kindness, and it turns out Madison is one of the most caring cities in the United States, coming in just behind Virginia Beach. Wallet Hub looked at everything from homelessness rate to share of income donated to charity and special education teachers. Experts say the holidays remind Americans to look out for one another through acts of kindness like charitable giving. People donated over $427 billion in 2018. And we think that stat covers our friends around the state, especially now as community comes together to help a local family after their home was destroyed by fire. Hope Zadarakonis' house is a total loss. Among the burnt remains of that house, a firefighter was able to save something that meant the world to her.
And he had the clipboard here, he had the urn behind it, and he's like, well, I got some stuff for you, and he went like this, and I lost it, but it was the first smile that I had that night.
But that wasn't the only help the family would receive. Neighbors helped them during the fire, and a friend is letting Hope and her children stay at their home as they get back on their feet. There's also a GoFundMe page that has raised thousands of dollars. Hope and her family are especially touched because they're usually the ones helping those in need. They used their trucking business to send supplies to victims of Hurricane Sandy back in 2012.
Heartwarming story this morning. All right, Governor Evers and some of the Bucks' biggest stars are teaming up to advocate for criminal justice reform.
Are y'all ready for my basketball tonight?
Bucks players and coaches brought their talents to a Racine County prison for a special basketball game. 9 inmates played in the game, while Buck stars like Giannis and Pat Connaughton roamed the sidelines as coaches. Governor Evers was on the court, too, promoting the campaign to break down the stigma of what it means to be incarcerated.
We realize everybody has their own story, but, just coming in here and listening to them and just going through what they have to say and listening to, the pain they have, it's amazing.
What I like about it is you guys got to see the humanity behind us. You don't see the greens, you see the DOC numbers, you see us as humans, and a lot of people out there don't see that.
Now, this was just the beginning. The Bucks will team up with the Sacramento Kings in February at the Fiserv Forum to highlight and inspire community advocates. All right, 6:41 now. High temperatures will be in the teens today. At least we're seeing the sun a little bit, though, and it won't be the case for long. Hattie's looking at a warm-up just in time for the weekend after the break.
But first, it is December 18th, and we want to say happy birthday to Adeha, Marin, and all the other kids turning 3 today. Thanks for celebrating with us early on News 3 Now this morning. 6:45 on a Wednesday morning and a beautiful sunrise out there, and hopefully that sun helps us feel a little warmer out there, Hattie, because it is cold out there as we wake up.
It certainly is. At least we have the sunshine this morning, but clear skies overnight across southern Wisconsin, as you can see here in Madison and across the entire area, have led to a pretty cold start. But with that sun coming up a little bit later each day still, here's a look at the sunrise sunset times and what we're looking at going forward. We are pretty much at the shortest daylight hours of the year right now. The official solstice and shortest daylight comes on Saturday, but over the next week, we're not going to gain or lose any time. So we're pretty much at the bottom. After that, we start to add minutes, and in a month, we'll add almost 30 minutes of daylight to our days. And as we go forward to the longest day of the year, June 20th, that's the summer solstice, we're going to add almost another 6.5 hours of daylight here in southern Wisconsin. So good news, we're going to start to go up pretty soon. Here's a look at our high temperature trend. Another thing that is going up, the numbers on the temperature trend. Take a look at all the 40s that we have over the next 10 days. Temperatures are going to be well above normals, which are now in the upper 20s this time of the year. So that mild weather will start tomorrow. Not today, though. Clear skies, as I mentioned, across the entire state. I am keeping my eye on these clouds off to the west. Those clouds are likely to hang together and move into southern Wisconsin later on this afternoon. Take a look at temperatures, though, across the state. It is 10 below in Eau Claire, 12 below in Ladysmith this morning. Superior checks in with 14 degrees below zero. Again, keep in mind the snowpack across northern Wisconsin is allowing for those temperatures to be so cold this morning. Wind chills are even worse. As you look across the state, wind chills are in the 20s below zero from Wausau all the way up to Superior this morning. It's cold here in southern Wisconsin, but at least it's not that cold. Let's take a closer look at those wind chill numbers for our viewing area. Madison and the Dells, some of the colder spots this morning, 15 below in the Dells. Janesville updating now to a wind chill of 18 degrees below zero, 13 below here in Madison. We have single digits below zero for southwestern Wisconsin. Your future track wind chills show you that it's going to be a very cold start to the day. Bundle up as you head out the door this morning. Here's 7:30. All locations likely starting out with wind chills below zero. By the lunch hour, wind chills improve a little bit into the single digits here in Madison. Teens to the west. That's about as warm as it gets, though. Wind chills as you head home from work later on today will likely be back in the single digits. Now, we're not going to get as cold, though, overnight tonight. Take a look at your extended forecast. South winds kick in tonight. Temperatures stay in the teens, and then we're topping at 34 on Thursday. Our stretch of 40s begins on Friday and lasts all the way through Christmas Day. We have a pretty dry forecast as well, with chances for rain not coming until later on Christmas Day. Here's a look at Charlie in Oregon. Look at that face.
Charlie's got the right idea today.
Yeah, it's okay. Just one day, and then it gets better tomorrow.
Did it have to be this cold, Hattie?
Ruh-roh, Hattie.
It's not my fault, Charlie.
She's just the messenger, honey. Stay in. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hattie.
You're welcome.
Stay with us. The Morning Sprint is up next. 6:51 and time for the morning sprint.
We begin with a response from President Trump as the House prepares for a historic vote on impeachment. In just the last few moments, the president took to Twitter, calling the impending impeachment, quote, a terrible thing with no intention of a proper investigation. There could be up to 6 hours of debate before the House votes on the 2 articles of impeachment. If they pass, President Trump will become the 3rd president in U.S. history to be impeached. His removal from office would require a 2/3 majority vote in the Republican-controlled Senate.
President Trump continues to insist on his innocence ahead of the impeachment vote. In a letter to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the president accused her of subverting American democracy. The president's letter accuses Democrats of interfering in the upcoming election, subverting democracy and obstructing justice, which are just some of the same charges he faces.
A coalition of liberal groups is making its voice heard ahead of the vote, with rallies held around the U.S. Here in Madison, hundreds gathered at the Capitol. A tagline of these rallies is, "No one is above the law, impeach and remove." Organizers say Trump has abused his power of office and are asking Congress to do just that.
The most recent Marquette poll shows these protesters are actually in the minority. According to the poll, about 40% of people in Wisconsin support impeachment and removal, while 52% are against it. We'll have more full coverage of today's House hearing right here on News 3 Now, right after when the full House is expected to start their debate.
To other headlines now, the House of Representatives is working on a $1.4 trillion spending package to avoid a government shutdown. The House has approved the package that would fund the government through the fiscal year 2020. It now needs to be passed in the Senate and signed by President Trump by Friday to avoid that shutdown.
Thousands of state employees are looking for a raise this morning. They'll find out whether a 2% raise will be coming their way at a meeting later today. The proposal passed the legislature's Finance Committee in May, but the Joint Committee on Employment Relations still has to approve it. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos and Senate President Roger Roth will both be at that meeting.
A pay raise for our Wisconsin state troopers could be in danger this morning. The troopers' deal would raise starting salaries from $44,000 a year to $54,000. That's an increase of about 23%. That deal isn't listed on the agenda for today's meeting in the state Senate. Republican senators are concerned about how big the increase is. They want more time to review it.
The state of Wisconsin is appealing a judge's order to immediately deactivate the voter registrations of more than 200,000 people. The judge entered an order that the Elections Commission needs to get rid of voters who didn't respond to a mailing indicating they've moved. The Department of Justice immediately appealed. The League of Women Voters is also filing a federal lawsuit over that decision.
And it's the coldest morning of the week. Take a look at current wind chills across southern Wisconsin. Feeling like it's below 0 as you head out the door early this morning. Your wind chill forecast today does have those numbers climbing into positive territory, but it still feels like the low teens later on this afternoon.
Thank you, Hattie. Local law enforcement around the state could be forced to enforce federal immigration laws under a new bill at the state capitol. The controversial bill to ban sanctuary cities targets policies in Madison and Milwaukee that limit the amount of immigration enforcement that local police officers do. This bill would require local law enforcement to cooperate and enforce federal laws.
The man accused of shooting and killing an 18-year-old over the weekend is being held on a $1 million bond this morning. 20-year-old Marcus Hamilton is accused in the shooting death of Gunnar Holm of Dodgeville. It happened on the east side of Madison along Spruce Street. The State Journal reports the shooting started as a drug deal.
The student accused of bringing 2 pellet guns to Waukesha South High School is out on bond this morning. 18-year-old Tyrone Smith is facing 5 charges, one of those a felony. Smith said in court yesterday that he brought the pellet guns to school because kids were picking on him. Smith's attorney says the student has mental health issues. He's due back in court in February.
The family of an 18-year-old who was shot and killed by police in southeast Wisconsin is suing over his death. Tyrese West was shot by Mount Pleasant Police Sergeant Eric Giese in June after being stopped for not having a light on his bike while he was riding in the dark. West's family is filing a federal civil rights lawsuit claiming wrongful death and excessive force. The Racine County District Attorney ruled Giese was acting in self-defense and would not be charged.
A new audit says Wisconsin's Economic Development Agency needs to make changes to ensure tax credits aren't awarded to Foxconn employees who don't work in the state. This is the second year the Legislative Audit Bureau identified the problem. Governor Evers says Foxconn won't qualify for tax credits unless its contract is renegotiated.
All right, 6:56. Let's turn it over to Stacey K with a look at your first alert traffic. Hey there, Stacey.
Hi, and good morning. Still moving well on the Beltline this morning. But as usual, the westbound side is starting to pick up between Stoughton and West Broadway. Inbound John Nolan tapping the brakes at Olin Ave and North Shore Drive, making your way into downtown. And East Washington already starting to get busy as you make your way towards the Capitol. Other main routes heading into Madison, moving along, no crashes or delays. With your first alert traffic, I'm Stacey K.
Thank you, Stacy. And here are some of those drive times. Nothing major happening to slow you down just yet. Remember the sunglasses as you head out the door this morning. Skies are clear, but it's a little deceiving. It's very cold outside. Wind chills are below 0 this morning. Daytime highs today will only be in the teens. It's going to be the coldest day of the week. At least we'll have some sunshine today. The forecast, though, does call for a nice warm-up through the rest of the week, right into the upcoming weekend. Highs will be in the 40s starting on Friday, and it looks like we'll stay in the 40s right through Christmas Day. Our next chance for precipitation is not until a week away, so good weather for travel across the region.
Some balmy holidays ahead. Thank you very much, Addie.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining us 1 week until Christmas, folks. Go make it a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning.